Motor racing is a great generational code. There's all sorts of examples of second and third generation stars that have followed in the footsteps of those that have come before them. Today's is kind of making his own mark. His dad's already been on the KTM Summer Grill this year. Andrew Van Leeuwen, Dan Herrero and Greg Russ with you for this edition, and we are delighted to be welcomed by Nash Morris. G'day.
How you going? Thanks for having me.
What a year. What a year.
Yeah,
is there a highlight? Is there one that sort of stands out, one thing?
I think that Trans Am race in Phillip Island was probably the one that I'm most pleased about. You know, you were there commentating. It sounded pretty good when you were...
It was crazy weather and all sorts that day too, wasn't it?
It was really good. I'd had a pretty tough year up to that point. I was pretty slow in Super 2 for the first two rounds, and I thought, this is my time to shine. I got no championship to worry about here. I'm not going to let any of these blokes pass me, so... And that's what happened, and I think it was a pretty cool race.
You played in all sorts of places. I mean, you just talked about, Super 2 and Trans Am, and we mentioned about, Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge. What was the one that you seemed to take to the Porsche like a duck to water. That was a superb thing to go and play in. Yeah,
the great thing about that category is everyone's got the exact same car. It's no real engineering benefits if you're with this team or in this kind of chassis, and that's the real thing that's good about it. There are also some downsides. It's hard to pass because everyone's got the same stuff. So I was pretty lucky to have some good qualifying performances and be at the front, and I think that's what helped me in those races.
Definitely.
We were just sort of chatting with your old man about the fact that, this is like your fourth year of car racing. You're actually not overly experienced in this whole thing. Why didn't you do karting and stuff? Was it something you weren't really interested in at the time, or what's the sort of story there?
I was more interested in playing video games, to be honest, and they weren't even car racing ones. I was a bit of a nerd. I liked playing some basketball and playing Fortnite and all those kind of stuff. So, but it was really when Anton started hanging around Dad. There is a funny video of me saying why I actually joined car racing. It's because I learned out race car drivers get to pull plenty of women. So that was actually, I'm not lying, that was actually the reason I started car racing. I got an XL and, I didn't really, the XL didn't do too good for me.
I was going to say, did chicks dig XLs? Was that?
But it was, I've grown to love the sport and all the relationships you gain through it's actually the really good part about it. And, all my best mates race cars now. It's pretty cool.
What's the future hold? I think I asked your dad about this, and his answer was, well, he's got to, forge his own path in that regard. You've driven some great things so far. What's on the wish list?
I'd like to go better in Super 2, but I think what I need to do is stop driving for our own team, our family-run team, and try and find a team that'll run me. It's pretty hard when you go in there and work on the car. When you drive it, you're a bit worried about banging it up. So I think that's our biggest problem at the moment. And
have you had conversations with people about that?
Yeah, there's been a few going on, and we're at the moment actually having a look at a few options there. So hopefully it's Super 2 or Carrera Cup or something along the lines of that.
Excellent.
Trans Am's obviously, Super 2, you have to do it to get into supercars. We know that, but Trans Am seems like a whole lot of fun to drive. There are some political things that go on in the Trans Am world as well, but did you enjoy just the driving style of those cars?
Yeah, they're my favourite car to drive by far. It's a raw car. The best thing is it's quite similar to Porsche. Everyone's got pretty similar stuff. But yeah, it's the racing's so good in them because you don't get that much stuff. They're quite, I'm not sure, I'm not that old, but the brakes go away on them, your tyres go away really quickly, which makes the racing so good.
Yeah.
Like, you actually got to manage your brakes, so if you're good at the start, you might not be the best at the end, which I think is what you need in motorsport. You need the car to be
a variable.
A variable. You need it to be a bad car sometimes, which is the great thing about the Trans Am is, and you got to be, you have to manage your stuff. It's pretty much what I'm trying to say.
As we're talking to you over the holiday period here, there's a New Zealand Aussie versus Kiwi TA2 thing going to happen on the other side of the ditch. Will you go and play there?
I believe they've put it on the first round of Trans Am in the 12 hours, so yeah, I don't think we'll go and do it.
Go and do that, okay.
Yeah. But no, it definitely would have been cool. Dad won the NZ Trans Am back in the day, so it would have been cool to go over there, and he said there's some plenty of cool tracks over there, so yeah, would have been cool to do that, but unfortunately I don't think we will.
Now, you just mentioned you talk about working on the car, so you're obviously hands-on. Do you feel like that gives you a better understanding as a driver in terms of how you go about your craft as well?
Yeah. So to go racing, Dad basically said you got to do your mechanical apprenticeship, and I completed that last year, which is great. I get to fix my own car if I make a mishap in it. So, but yeah, it definitely gives you a bit of an understanding of what's going on beneath you.
Yeah. So I guess we've just been talking about Brody Kostecki's won the championship. He has that innate understanding of what he needs to change in a car. Is that what you're looking for as well when you go and do that?
Yeah, I think it helps. You know, you can actually pinpoint what's going on sometimes, especially if you know how it all works underneath the car. I think that helps, yeah.
And you just mentioned Bathurst 12 hour. You got something exciting planned for that as well. PT coming out to drive at the mountain with you. How do you reckon that's going to go?
I reckon it's going to go pretty cool. You know, I follow his social media. He's one of those cool dudes that, you know, some people love him, some people hate him, which you need people like that in motorsport. But when he came out and did it with Dad last time, that was before I even started racing. So I think it's going to be pretty funny. You know, I didn't even know who he was. I just thought he was some old bloke driving the car around. But now I actually know a fair bit about motorsport. I'm like, oh, that dude was a badass. So it's going to be cool to drive a car around Bathurst with him and Danny Studdert.
Awesome.
Long term, you know, is the goal supercars? Is it professional? You know, being a professional driver. Is that where you see yourself going?
Yeah, that's my goal is to become a guy that gets paid to drive a race car. So hopefully I can be there soon and, you know, follow all the other people that have been to the Norwell ranks and get to supercars.
How difficult is that step? You talked about maybe having to step away from Dad and family things. That's a big move.
Yeah, it will be, you know. Dad's pretty much ran me for 3 or 4 years now, and it's pretty cool to have your dad talking to you when you're out there in the race car. Sometimes we get a bit emotional with each other just because, you know, we love each other, but then we also start yelling at each other sometimes, which is funny. But, I think it's going to be pretty different if we do go down that route.
Awesome. We wish you all the best, mate. Thank you for dropping in and sharing a bit of the journey so far. And we can't wait to see what the next chapter holds for Nash Morris. That is the KTM Summer Grill. Make sure you tune back in to the Speed Cafe website tomorrow to see who our next guest is.
You could be a winner each episode of the Summer Grill. KTM are giving you the chance to win a bar stool, a mug, and this race-inspired clock as well. So there's more good reasons to tune in and hear from some of the stars of world motorsport here as a part of the KTM Summer Grill. All you got to do is click on the link below, fill in your details, and you could be in the running to win.